What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 27 of Preloaded. My name is Josh Finderup, and I'm joined, as always, by the other half of Preloaded, Jackson Vanover. How you doing this week, Jackson?
I'm doing great, Josh. Getting back into the normal swing of things. We had so much news and some exciting PlayStation stuff to talk about. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it feels like everybody was kind of saving their news for this week. We got, BlizzCon happened last week, and then we got some pretty big Bioware news recently that we're going to be reacting to, some Sony news, and then on top of all that, we have the State of Play that just happened. We're literally recording this minutes after the State of Play, and we're going to react to that. That's actually going to be our deep dive discussion. So you want to stay tuned for all of that. But first, Preloaded posts every Friday. We post on both of our YouTube channels. I'm Quest Mode on YouTube, and Jackson is jayvee, Jayvee. So if you want to watch us, you can check the episodes out there. Or if you prefer to listen, you can get the audio versions over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. And if you are listening on any of those platforms, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave a review if you're enjoying the show. Drop a 5-star review and let people know why you enjoy listening. You can also write into Preloaded at the email address preloadedpodcast@gmail.com. And you can write in with whatever you want, but we'd love to get your questions. We dive into our mailbag at the end of every episode. And so if there's anything you want to hear us discuss, send us a question and maybe we'll read your question and discuss it here on the show. And with all that out of the way, we're going to kick the show off, as we always do, with our segment, What the Hell Have You Been Playing? So, Jackson, what's been on your, what have you been playing?
So, Josh, the last week, it's been more of the same, more Valheim for me. I've been pretty sucked into that experience in that game. It's great to see it keep crushing it in sales. I think they passed 4 million sales recently, so That's awesome. But it's been sucking me in big time in survival games. Yeah, like I've been saying, they just don't do that for me. But I also spent an hour the other day playing Skyrim, and I couldn't tell you why, honestly. I started a new character, an orc. I messed around for about an hour. I got to the first blacksmith area before Whiterun, and I put it back down. It was just one of those weird urges that I just acted on. And that's all I have to say.
Do you think you'll keep playing it, or are you done? You got your fix?
You know, I may play it a bit more. I want to capture some footage for a video. That's kind of the reason I got into it, but I also just got sucked into the experience. So I think I will go back, yeah.
Yeah, nice. If I did that, I'd go stealth all the way with my new obsession. Speaking of, I've been playing, or I finished rather, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Great game. I don't think it holds up quite as well as some of the people who are nostalgic for that game say it does. I'd give it like a solid 8 out of 10, but it's really easy to see why at the time it was like a 10 out of 10 when it came out. Really good stealth mechanics, really good level design for the first half of the game. The level design, in my opinion, drops way off in the second half of the game, but overall, definitely worth a playthrough if you haven't played it and you're into stealth games. And then I kicked up, I really want to get an idea of where the stealth genre kind of came from, and that's why I played Tenchu last week. And so this week I downloaded Thief. I broke out the old gaming PC, which I rarely do, and downloaded Thief and Thief 2. And Thief 1, is probably not for me. The gameplay-wise, it actually does hold up very well, but the level design is very sprawling. The map system, in my opinion, is not good, so it gets confusing where to go and what to do, and you just kind of wander these empty, sprawling levels. People say Thief 2 is better, so I'm going to give that a try. And then also Thief 3, which I think is called Thief Deadly Shadows. I'm going to give that a try as well. Because every top 10 list I read about with stealth games puts Thief in there somewhere. So these are pretty influential and kind of revered games, and I want to check them out.
That's awesome, man. So I'm curious, have you played the newer Thief that came out like 6-7 years ago?
No, and I actually got it on sale a couple weeks ago for like $5 or something like that. And I do want to check it out, but I hear it's just not very good, that they were kind of trying to dumb it down, and it didn't make people happy at all. So I may check it out. We'll see.
Right. It feels like a poor man's, excuse the expression, poor man's Dishonored.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the mechanics don't seem to fit in with what Thief was back in the day. I mean, these games are old. Like Thief came out in 98. I think Thief 2 was 99. And so, but the mechanics definitely hold up. I just wish the level design was a bit better.
Gotcha. It's really cool to go back and play older games like that and see how they hold up.
Yes. Yeah, it is very cool. I love it. I mean, I'm nostalgic for this kind of graphic style that they have, because that's when I got into gaming. But one thing I will say is I was reminded of why I do not like PC gaming. You got to download a patch to get these games to work the way that, they work without the patch, but you really want to download the patch. You got to do that. I had to update my drivers, and then I still had stuttering frame rates. And PC gaming, man, it is not for me.
I bounce back and forth, but I hate everything that you're talking about. That's the worst part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. But, once I got it running, it was like probably well over 60 frames per second, and looks great. But anyways, that is what we have been playing. We're now going to get into the top stories, and there are a bunch of them this week. So I am going to rattle through these pretty quickly, and Jackson, just feel free to chime in, interrupt me whenever you have something to interject. But just so we have enough time to really dig into our deep dive discussion, I'm going to get through some of these very quickly. So kicking off the list with some stories that came out last week, Watch Dogs Legion's online mode was revealed, and revealed in full, I guess, and it's coming out March 9th. And you'll have several different modes here. It's a mix of kind of like co-op stuff and PvP stuff. To me, it looks cool, but me not being the multiplayer guy, it's probably not going to get me back into Watch Dogs. Next, this also happened last week. BlizzCon, as I mentioned at the top of the show, happened, and Diablo II Resurrected was probably the biggest standalone announcement from the show. So this is coming out for PC and consoles in 2021. It's got updated graphics, and it's got, actually, speaking of graphics, you can kind of switch back and forth between the old graphics and the new graphics, so that's cool, and it is a very, very faithful recreation of the previous game. Then, Xbox has some rumors swirling around it. The rumor is that they're going to hold a event next month, similar to kind of like a State of Play. I don't know what they're calling their events these days, but that it's going to focus maybe around the Bethesda acquisition, that maybe they're going to solidify what is going to be the exclusivity around those games, the Bethesda games. And I don't know if you saw this, Jackson, but there's a rumor that they may announce a Starfield release in 2021.
Yes, yeah, that's the big rumor right now. And so people I trust online are actually pretty positive that that's going to happen, which I just can't conceivably think about that. For some reason in my mind, that doesn't seem possible, but I would be very happy to be wrong.
Yeah, me too. I think this has got to be one of my most, even though we don't know much about it, it's one of my most hyped Xbox exclusives. I'm going to call it an exclusive. I think it will be, but we will hopefully find out more about that in March. So stay tuned if you're an Xbox gamer and Bethesda fan. Next, we got a big story from Sony. This is prior to the State of Play we got today. There was an interview that was published in GQ magazine, of all places, where Jim Ryan basically revealed PlayStation VR 2, which is going to be designed for the PlayStation 5, and it has some new features, a new controller that is inspired by the DualSense controller, a single cord, so it is not wireless, but hopefully the cord situation will be a little less messy than the current PSVR, and then it'll have a high resolution, better field of view, and better tracking. So that's exciting if you're a PSVR fan. Also, they mentioned that they're going to be releasing more games for the PC, more first-party games for the PC. It sounds like starting with Days Gone, and I don't think they mentioned any other games that they're going to do this with, but the implication was that there will be others down the road, and I don't think that they're going to be releasing any day and date with for PC, or at least that was not implied. So that is... Oh, and then the last bit of news was that Gran Turismo 7 got delayed to 2022. So that's actually a pretty big delay. They've been kind of pretty confident that game was going to come in 2021, but not anymore.
Yeah, that seems like a big blow. Of course, COVID's affecting everything, so that is a result of that. But it's interesting that PlayStation keeps diving into PC games. I think it's a great thing. I mean, we've got Death Stranding now, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Days Gone. So if they can keep doing that, I think everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah, and Detroit, which I know that's not I don't think technically that's first party, but it wasn't exclusive for a long time. So,
right, yeah, I love that game.
Me too. Yeah, so very exciting that more people will get to play these awesome games. So next, we got just a huge story, or at least I look at this as a huge story. EA came out and officially let the world know that Anthem is canceled, it is dead. So this was, I guess there was some meeting at EA. They were kind of weighing their options, and they ultimately decided that it was not worth rebooting the franchise, which is what they were planning on doing. And so, yeah, if you were an Anthem player and you were looking forward to what it was called Anthem Next, it's just not a thing anymore. Jackson, I'm curious to hear your reaction to this news.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of a bummer. I think everyone kind of knows there's a general sense that Anthem was not a success. Like, we know that. There's a very small contingent of people that really like the game, and everyone else kind of moved on from it. So I was holding on to a sliver of hope that the reboot would work, because I think it did have some magic in there with the flight and the combat. But I think ultimately this is it's one of those bittersweet decisions where it's probably for the best for the future of Dragon Age and Mass Effect. So yeah, a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, me too. I'm bummed for people who might have been looking forward to this. I don't know how many of them of you out there are, but that bummed me out. However, I do think this is absolutely the right call, especially with their comments that they were. I don't have any of them in front of me, but EA was. For example, they came out with a story, I think just today or yesterday, that Dragon Age 4 will reportedly now be a fully focused single-player game instead of the multiplayer. I don't know if it was going to be multiplayer focused, but multiplayer was going to be a component of Dragon Age 4, which I didn't realize, but that's no longer the case. And it seems like they have maybe learned their lesson with Jedi Fallen Order being such a success, and now with Anthem being such a massive failure.
Right. I think it's very clear BioWare had been for a while very good at one thing. And so it's good to see EA let them do what they're going to do. And not to bring this on too long, but I don't know if you saw this, Josh. There was an interview with the EA studio head of everyone, and kind of explaining what the relationship is between EA and its studios. And she was kind of suggesting that they want now to let studios do what they want to do more than they were before. So we don't know how long that is going to take for that to actually go into effect, but they kind of suggested Battlefront 2's turnaround was a result of, DICE doing what they thought was best instead of EA. So
yeah, that's great. And then what Respawn has done just in general, it seems like that EA's been pretty hands off, and they've had 2 hits on their hands with Apex and Jedi Fallen Order. So very exciting that maybe EA is turning things around in terms of their kind of PR and how they handle franchises.
Right. I hope so.
Yeah. And then the last little bit of news, just a real quick mention. I got an email this morning. Some of you probably got it as well if you're on the mailing list. Summer Game Fest is coming back in 2021. So Jeff Keighley's Google Calendar smorgasbord of stuff is going to happen. Hopefully it's a little more organized this year, but and it'll have E3 to compete with this year apparently as well. So going to be interesting to watch that. Anything to add to the news, Jackson, before we get into our deep dive?
No, that's about it. I'm ready to talk Sony.
All right. So with that, we are going to take our first break. And yeah, when we get back, it's going to be all state of play all day. We'll be right back. And we're back. So now we are going to get into our deep dive discussion where we give our reactions to the state of play presentation that Sony just made. Again, we're recording this literally moments or minutes after the show. So I just want to get your overall reaction first, Jackson. What do you think?
Overall, Josh, I was pretty whelmed. There's a couple things that I'm interested in, one good surprise, in my opinion. I I was kind of expecting a little bit more, maybe something a little bit more splashy. But then again, I kind of look at the time of the year and think, oh, I mean, it makes sense. We're kind of in a down part. But yeah, that's where I was.
Yeah, for me personally, I was really happy with the show because there's a lot of stuff in here that speaks to me. However, I did think that there was a notable lack of any heavy hitters in this presentation. We got no Horizon. I wasn't expecting God of War, but I know some people would have loved to see that. And so just, yeah, those big first-party tentpole franchises didn't make a showing. So I think that'll disappoint a lot of people. But again, there was a lot of stuff for me personally. And if you weren't excited about this show, not you, Jackson, but our listeners, there are some games in here that I think are going to be fantastic. So I do think that there's a lot to look forward to in the first half. We started out with Crash Bandicoot 4 updates. That didn't really do anything for me, although I do own that game and I haven't played it. I'd like to. But then we got into Returnal, which I think continues to look great.
Yeah, I think so too. The more I've seen it, the more I've liked it. I think gameplay looks great, but actually, Josh, I think I'm just more interested in this story. It looks very Prometheus to me, which I don't know if you saw that movie.
Parts of it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It just like very weird, very like Ridley Scott, strange sci-fi that's kind of horror bend, and that very much speaks to me. That's kind of a genre that I really like. So I love what I saw.
Yeah, with the time travel kind of aspect, I'm very fascinated with the story as well. And it feels like, even though I didn't play Hades a lot of one of the things I see a lot of people just rave about with that game is how the story unfolded as you made run after run after run. And it seems like Returnal is doing something similar, where there's a definite narrative here. And in that you're going to be making run after run, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. So I agree. It looks very interesting.
Yeah, like uncovering memories of her past and that whole like part of her house appearing in this alien world is very compelling to me.
Yeah, and I like how she is aware of the changing world. This was something we saw in a trailer that was released before the State of Play event, but it's a procedurally generated world, and apparently Celine, the main character, is observing this, and so I think that's cool that it's not just her randomly going through the world again and again, and they have this procedurally generated world. It's not just for the player. Apparently Celine, it plays into the story. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah, me too. I love when games do that.
Yeah. So next we got two games that, to me were just kind of like somewhat forgettable. Knockout City and then Sifu. Knockout City is a multiplayer dodgeball game, and Sifu appears to be some sort of like 3D martial arts brawler. I don't know if any of those spoke to you, Jackson.
Actually, Sifu looked pretty darn cool to me, mostly because it reminded me of the Raid series, which is, I don't know if you've seen it, Josh, but a series of Indonesian action films where
I know of them, and I've watched scenes on YouTube, like when people mention them, and I know it's like John Woo on steroids, basically, or maybe it even is John Woo. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and like just that long hallway fight scene, just that was really cool to me. I really dug the art style of Sifu, so like I want to see more of the game, obviously, before I dive head in. But I'm actually gonna be following this. It looks pretty cool to me.
Very cool, yeah. I'm not big on beat 'em ups, but I did like the art style for sure. So we'll see how that shapes up. I think that is coming out in 2021. To PS5. They just said to PS5, not PS4. So we'll see if that's an exclusive. Next, we got to see Solar Ash. This game, I think, has a lot of potential, mainly because of the developer who's behind it, Heart Machine. They made
Hyper Light Drifter.
Hyper Light Drifter, yeah, which was just a really well-received game. I didn't play it, but I know people love that game. And but this gave me some serious The Pathless vibes.
Totally. That's the first thing I thought is like, what, this is a game about movement and adventure platformer and massive beasts. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what the Pathless had.
Yeah, and I hope the Pathless was good, but I hope this is better. And I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'll definitely check it out when it comes out, assuming it doesn't, tank in the reviews. Next, we got to see Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. I've never played a Five Nights at Freddy's game. I have no interest in them.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, and then we got to see Oddworld Soulstorm, and my interest in this game has gone way up since I've been getting into stealth games, because stealth is a huge part of the Oddworld games. And I was really happy to hear that you can go through this game as a pacifist. I'm hoping you can do an entirely non-lethal run. That would make me pretty much instantly want to play this game. And I might even play the new and tasty, the prequel to this game, as a run-up to it. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know what it is. This game doesn't grip me personally. The only Oddworld I played, though, is Stranger's Wrath, which is very different than the mainline games. So,
yeah, if you like puzzle solving, and I mean 2D platforming and puzzle solving mixed with stealth, then you should definitely check out this game. The gameplay is solid, and I forget his name, Lorne Lanning, or the guy who narrated this trailer. He knows what he's doing.
Okay.
So if either of those gameplay genres appeal to you, definitely check this out, or keep your eye on it at least. And it's free on PS Plus. So,
right, that's a huge plus.
Yeah, and it comes out on April 6th. So look forward to that. I thought this game looks great. It was one of the things that speaks to me, but I'm not sure if it speaks to the wider PlayStation audience. But speaking of, the next game was the highlight of the show, and that's Kena Bridge of Spirits. At least it was the highlight of the show for me. I don't know what you thought, Jackson.
Yeah, I thought it looked gorgeous. I mean, everyone's been saying this since it was revealed. It looks like you're playing a Pixar movie. What stood out actually most to me, first off, the release date of August 24th. That's awesome. I think maybe some people were expecting sooner, but I think that's great. I'm excited to play this game in 6 months. But outside of that, the combat looks awesome. And I was a little worried that this might be sort of simplistic, focus on the way it looks rather than mechanics. But mechanically, it looks really sound, which is awesome.
Yeah, in some of the research I've done for a few of my videos, you have this staff, which I don't know if it casts magic or if it's just a melee weapon, but the staff doubles as your bow and arrow, which is kind of cool. So you won't have to switch back and forth between your bow and your staff, which is neat.
It does sort of feel like a multi-tool of sorts.
Yeah, and one of my notes I wrote down is I wonder how tough the combat will be, because it almost looked kind of Souls-like. There were a lot of big bosses, and I just wonder how,
at the
how
very
tough
end.
it will be. Yep. So, yeah, this game looks awesome. I do think it's going to be somewhat short from what I've read, but that's fine with me. I'm totally cool with a 10 to 12 hour experience if that's what it ends up being.
Me too. I actually don't want more from this game, personally.
Yeah. So that is, again, for me, that was the highlight. Yeah, it comes out August 24th. I think they had actually previously said it was coming out in March, so I think that was kind of officially a delay, but August 24th, very cool, exciting to look forward. And next, we got to see what is my most anticipated game of this entire show, Deathloop. I think this is going to be, assuming Arcane lives up to their standard of quality, I think this is going to be a Game of the Year contender, not just for me, but for many people out there. This game just looks awesome.
It does. It's just bursting with flavor and personality. And I loved, I don't know if you got this, but did you get a James Bond vibe from this trailer?
Yeah.
Like the intro.
Going to mention that. I know that it was inspired, so I'm working on a video about Deathloop right now, and I've done a lot of research, and there's a lot of stuff to dig into with this game if you know where to look. If you Google Deathloop interviews, you'll find some really interesting stuff. And part of the inspiration came from just one artist who made the posters for some 60s movies, and they decided to make, I don't know if it was based off of that art style, but they decided to set the whole game in the 60s, and that's when James Bond got started, and it's where a lot of that style kind of came from. But yeah, definitely feels James Bondish, and I love that this trailer did, again, not to beat a dead horse here, but it kind of focused on a few of these stealth abilities. Apparently there'll be an invisibility ability, and you'll be able to use disguises, which from my research might be limited to the female assassin, not Colt, which is interesting.
Wow. That is interesting. Shoot. Her name starts with a J. I can't remember it. Juliana. There we go. Mm-hmm. Did Juliana's model change? Did you pick up on that, Josh?
Yeah, she looked a little younger in this. So maybe, or maybe her gameplay model is different than what we've seen in CG. I'm not sure, but it looked a little different.
Not that that's a big deal. Yeah, that doesn't bother me in any way. The art style is so striking in this, and it's very Arcane. playing Dishonored, of course, you can tell that. It's not trying to be ultra realistic to life, but I think it really works.
No, it totally does. I think that, having played Dishonored, which has the first one, which has a pretty basic art style because it is, a PS3 game on Unreal Engine 3, it didn't affect the gameplay at all. Honestly, the visuals, I think they look fantastic, but this game could look like anything and I'd play it.
Totally. The concept's amazing.
And from the research I've done, the way the world unfolds sounds fascinating. Like, it takes place in, there's a time loop, obviously, and if you don't kill all 8 of your targets by the end of the day, by midnight, you have to start over. But time is not in real time. You literally can take as much time as you want through each of the 4 areas in the game, which is really cool. So you can play it as slow and stealthy as you want, or you can go through and just blast everybody away. I just can't say enough good things about what I've read so far about this game.
I really can't either, and I'm just going to do this on the fly. I don't know if you know. When does this game come out? It's May, right?
24th or 21st?
May 21st.
Yeah.
There it is.
So, not long.
Yeah, that's really close. I mean, that's 3 months away.
Yep. So, anyways, this is, again, probably my most anticipated game of the year. I don't know if that is true for a lot of you listeners out there, but definitely don't sleep on it. And then lastly, we got a huge Final Fantasy VII Remake update, which I didn't expect. And if I was disappointed about one thing in this show, it's that they saved this for their finale. I liked Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I'm kind of good on this game until they come out with part 2, and so I know you didn't play it. Or did you play it? You didn't play it, did you?
No, I didn't play it. And I'm glad you said that because I literally know so little about it that I thought maybe this was part 2. So it's not. This is like a DLC plus a PS5 upgrade.
Yeah, it is cool that they're adding. Now, I always pronounced her name as Yuffie, but I think that maybe in this trailer they pronounce it as Yuffie. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
she's a main character in the original game. She's a huge part of the story, so it's very cool that they're bringing her in. But I'm not sure how it's going to work as like a DLC. I hope that there's not as much filler in this as there was in the. I basically hope that it's all story content, not these side missions that they had. And if it is, I'll definitely play it because I don't want to miss a single beat of this remake. But this was not what I was hoping for in terms of the kind of finale of this show.
Right. It definitely wasn't for me just because I have no interest in it. And let me just say, first off, it looks like awesome content. Like, it looks very well made. It just doesn't specifically appeal to me.
Yeah. And so this comes out on June 10th of 21, and it also featured a bunch of, they highlighted a bunch of upgrades for the PlayStation 5, which is cool. It seems like this is going to be a free upgrade. I don't know if they mentioned that. I can't imagine that it won't be, but you do have to pay. Yeah, okay. So, but you do have to pay for the side content, the intergrade, I think is what they're calling it.
Weird name, but yes.
Yeah. You can just count on. Well, I guess Square Enix doesn't always do it, but yeah, their Japanese stuff. Like what's the other one that
Kingdom Hearts has horrible
Kingdom Hearts,
naming conventions.
And then Nier Automata, they're that version 1.275634229.
There's totally a reason behind that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and I'm not one to speak because I have not played those games. But anyways, that's what we got to see. For me, the highlights were Returnal, Oddworld, Kena, and Deathloop, and that's enough. Like you said at the beginning, for this time of year, that gives me a lot to look forward to. And not too much, actually. I don't feel like I'm going to be overwhelmed with games this spring. Knock on wood. I mean, that's a good problem to have, but I feel like I'll be able to get to most of this stuff.
I think so too, and yeah, for me, I'd say it's definitely Returnal, Sifu, Kena, and Deathloop. Those were the highlights for me, and I'm okay that I didn't like the other ones. I don't have to like every game they show.
Yeah. If before we finish up, if there was one thing that you wanted to see that they didn't show, what would that be?
It would definitely be Horizon, without a doubt. There's no reason for them to have had something ready. It's very much probably an unrealistic expectation, I think. Even though I am someone who really wanted to see that. So,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, they seem insistent that this game is coming out this year, and I think it was. I was surprised not to see Horizon in any shape or form here, and it does make me wonder, whether we are going to get it this year. But with no Gran Turismo and God of War being, I don't know if it's unlikely that game comes out, but it seems like the schedule for Sony is thinning out a little bit.
Yes, and we also didn't see Ratchet, which I thought was a little interesting. Considering that game's coming out. They just announced the release date of June 11th. So, or is it July? One of those.
I think it's June.
June. Yeah. So that was weird to me. And one more thing. Oh, I completely forgot it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, those were some like I said, some heavy hitters that just didn't. This was kind of like the double A show with maybe Deathloop and Returnal. I know they're pitching Returnal as a AAA game, and I think Deathloop, we'd be doing a disservice to call that a AA game. But
right.
Anyways, so let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Let us know what you thought of the show. We'd love to hear. I'll be really curious to see the reactions, even when we just log off, to see what people are saying about this on Twitter.
Right.
I loved it, but I do have a feeling that overall people might be a little disappointed. And with that, we are going to wrap up our discussion on the state of play, and we're going to take our second break. When we get back, we're going to dig into our mailbag. We'll see you in just a sec. And we're back. Time to read one of our reader questions as we dig into our mailbag. This week, we're going back to good old Brock. Brock, thanks for the question. If you want to have your question read on the show, you can write into preloadedpodcast@gmail.com. So, Brock asks, with the recent success of Valheim selling 3 million copies, which I think now it's 4 million, in early access, it got me wondering if early access is actually a good thing or not. I can personally attest to games in which I have been allowed to play early, in which it convinced me not to buy the game. So the question is, should companies roll the dice on allowing early access to their games, be it demos, betas, or actual early access?
So if you're going to ask me, I generally don't like early access. I'm with Brock. I don't think it's a good idea to show a really unfinished product, generally speaking. But then you have success stories like Hades, like Valheim, that have just blown up immediately or slowly built up and then released fully, and everyone loves it. So it's hard for me to say, no, you can't do early access. But when you're talking about like demos and betas, for me, I think your game needs to be in a really good place in order to show it off. Otherwise, it can leave a bad taste in your mouth. The example in my head is Fallout 76 had a beta. That beta just wasn't very good, and it didn't leave a good impression, and that lasted towards the full game.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add there, I agree with pretty much everything you said. The only thing I'll add is that a early access version or a beta is a much better option than a full release at full price like Anthem.
Right.
If you're going to release a game and it's not ready, or heck, even Cyberpunk, like I don't think that they would have considered a early access or beta, but they clearly released that game when it was not done. So if there is an option on the table for developers, I would much rather they release an unfinished game as early access than, basically pitching it as the finished product. So,
right. That's very well said.
Yeah. So thanks again, Brock, for the question. We are now going to sign off. And before we do, Jackson, did you have anything to plug on your channel?
So I'm actually bouncing between two ideas. I don't know which one is going to make it, but I'm either going to do like a very heavy, deep Valhalla critique or kind of an Anthem post-mortem. So one of those two, look for it on my channel soon.
Nice. And on my channel, I just posted a video detailing 10 details that we actually know about Far Cry. We don't know a ton, but there are some details out there if you do some digging, which I did. So if you're curious about Far Cry 6, go check out that video. It needs the views. So I'll hope to see you over on my channel. And with that, we are going to sign off. You can catch me on social media. I'm at Quest Mode Games. Jackson, where can people find you?
I'm at jayvee on YT.
Nice. And we will see everyone next week.
Bye, guys.